This is CBN NewsWatch.
Thanks for joining us for CBN NewsWatch for Thursday, February 20th, 2020. I'm Mark Martin. Today, Democratic candidates take aim at newcomer Michael Bloomberg in a contentious debate in Las Vegas last night, with critics questioning his performance, as Democrats also attacked frontrunner Bernie Sanders. Also on the campaign trail, President Trump fires back at the Democrats, calling them the party of high taxes, socialism, late-term abortion, and more. Virginia lawmakers preparing to pass bills into law that some analysts say threaten religious freedom in the state. And they go into combat zones to provide relief and medical treatment. A look at the Free Burma Rangers who do these things in the name of Christ. Those stories and more today on Newswatch. We begin, though, with the fiery Democratic debate in Las Vegas last night as the top candidates blasted newcomer Michael Bloomberg, who appeared in a debate for the first time and has already spent more than $400 million of his own money on campaign ads. Senator Elizabeth Warren launched some of the strongest attacks.
I'd like to talk about who we're running against. A billionaire who calls women fat broads and horse-faced lesbians. And no, I'm not talking about Donald Trump. I'm talking about Mayor Bloomberg. Look, I'll support whoever the Democratic nominee is, but understand this. Democrats take a huge risk if we just substitute one arrogant billionaire for another.
Bloomberg and others also went after the frontrunner in the polls, socialist Senator Bernie Sanders, and his huge spending plans on programs like Medicare for All.
I believe in democratic socialism for working people, not billionaires. Health care for all.
I'm actually less concerned about the lack of transparency on Sanders' personal health than I am about the lack of transparency on how to pay for his health care plan.
I'm the only one on this stage that's actually got anything done on health care. Okay? I'm the guy the president turned to and said, go get the votes for Obamacare. And I noticed what everybody's talking about is the plan that I first introduced.
I can't think of ways that would make it easier for Donald Trump to get reelected than listening to this conversation. It's ridiculous. We're not going to throw out capitalism. We tried that. Other countries tried that. It was called communism, and it just didn't work. What a wonderful country we have. The best-known socialist in the country happens to be a millionaire with 3 houses. What I miss here?
Bloomberg and former Vice President Joe Biden also argued that they were the most electable. But in the end, the question will be if the debate will actually change any voters' minds and whether it will actually help or hurt Bloomberg. CBN's Jenna Browder is covering this debate for us, and she's with us now. Jenna, the New York Post had this headline on its front page today, showing a beaten-up Bloomberg after all the attacks he took in the debate. Did last night change his standing at all, would you say?
He had some good moments, like that line about communism that got a laugh from the crowd. But overall, Mark, this was a tough night for Bloomberg. You know, he has been rolling out these ads, spending millions, tens of millions of dollars on all of these ads. And this was not the Michael Bloomberg on stage who we have seen in those ads. So a disappointing night for him. You know, he had several dust-ups on tax returns, on stop and frisk, non-disclosure agreements. And if anything, last night really hurt Michael Bloomberg more than it helped him.
What about Bernie Sanders? He was forced to defend his socialist health care and economic plans.
Yeah, it was a good night for Bernie Sanders. He, right now, Mark, it looks like he is the candidate to beat. And if these other Democrats can't stop him before Super Tuesday, he may just run away with this nomination. Last night, Elizabeth Warren, it was her opportunity to really go after Bernie Sanders, both of them running in that progressive lane, wanting to win over those voters. And really, she went after Michael Bloomberg more than anybody else. So this was maybe a missed opportunity for her. Of course, all of the other candidates, they focused most of their fire on Michael Bloomberg, too. But Elizabeth Warren, this was her turn to go after him, and she didn't. And so as a result, we saw Bernie Sanders emerge from this debate relatively unscathed.
Pete Buttigieg had a good night. Will he get a bump from last night?
He might. You know, we saw a lot of good one-liners from him that could go viral, and that's important in this day and age. He's smooth. He's very dynamic. But he's running against several other moderate candidates or more moderate candidates who are vying for the same voters. And if none of them drop out, then, well, Bernie Sanders is the one who benefits from that and is, as I said, could run away with this nomination. So unless, Klobuchar or Biden or Bloomberg drop out, that's not good news for a candidate like Buttigieg.
Final thought, last night's winners and losers overall.
Yeah, overall, I thought Donald Trump was the big winner because we had all of these Democratic candidates going after each other. This was a brawl, and they took the gloves off last night. Donald Trump, the overall big winner. I would say among the Democrats themselves, Bernie Sanders, he emerged pretty much unscathed.
All right, CBN's Jenna Browder reporting from Washington. Thank you, Jenna.
Thanks, Mark.
President Trump, like Jenna said, was also on the campaign trail last night. He was in neighboring Arizona, blasting the Democrats while telling the enthusiastic crowd that the Republicans stand with the American people.
The Democrat Party is the party of high taxes, high crime, open borders, late-term abortion, socialism, blatant corruption, and the total destruction of your Second Amendment. The Republican Party is the party of the American worker, the American family, the American dream, the Second Amendment, and the late, great Abraham Lincoln, right?
The president added that this year's election is for, quote, the survival of our nation. Former National Security Advisor John Bolton denounced the Democrats' impeachment of President Trump as, quote, grossly partisan, and said it would not have made any difference if he had testified as Democrats wanted him to. He said Wednesday in an appearance at Vanderbilt University that the Senate still would have acquitted the president. Coming up, lawmakers in Virginia are moving ahead on bills designed to prevent discrimination against the LGBTQ community, but critics warn they're actually a serious threat to religious freedom. We'll explain why when we come back.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Watch Studio 5 Wednesday night at 9:30.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
Get the top political news and analysis from Washington on Faith Nation, tonight at 6 Eastern, only on the CBN News Channel.
Check out the CBN News Daily Rundown podcast each weekday with me, Caitlin Burke. Click on the show tab at cbnnews.com where you can listen and subscribe.
As we told you yesterday, lawmakers in Virginia are poised to pass bills to prevent discrimination against the LGBTQ community, but critics call them a threat to religious freedom. CBN's Eric Phillips brings us the story from the capital of Virginia, Richmond.
3 controversial bills are close to final votes. Opponents point out that their major concern is the same steps being taken to stop discrimination trample on the religious freedom of the faithful.
As everyone is aware, the bills came fast and furious this session, with nearly 50 bills to further the LGBTQ agenda.
The Family Foundation came to Richmond, sounding the alarm over bills they believe represent a weaponizing of the government against the church. 2, outlaw discrimination in public places based on factors such as gender and sexual orientation. If they become law, it could have serious implications for an all-boys Christian school and similar organizations.
The laws being proposed really, at the end of the day, are going to hurt freedom of speech and freedom of religion to express one's religion and religious convictions.
Separate boys and girls' restrooms could also become a thing of the past if the Democratic majority has its way. A third bill would prohibit hiring and firing practices based on gender or sexual orientation. Think about churches that only have male priests or a convent with all female nuns. How far would it go?
This is the first time we've ever seen something that affects quote-unquote public accommodation, which is very vaguely defined and will sweep in anything that's essentially open to the public. And because people of faith have different views about what is sexuality and what are genders, they're going to come under the wrath of government for having a counter view.
Opponents of the bills say the very rules meant to thwart discrimination would in fact heap it on them.
We're very concerned that this could lead to persecution of our churches in various forms and penalties from the state simply because of our religious beliefs and convictions.
On CBN News' Faith Nation, Regent University's Gerson Moreno-Riano said he's very concerned about the potential expansion of the Attorney General's prosecutorial powers.
To argue that the Attorney General, the chief law enforcement officer of the state of Virginia, could initiate civil actions based on what he or she may think is happening or what could happen. Again, very, very scary.
The Family Foundation will push for amendments to these bills to protect faith-based entities. But if they pass as is, they will then turn to the governor to make the changes, though the chances of that are slim. In Richmond, Virginia, Eric Phillips, CBN News.
Still ahead, a look at a new documentary film on the Free Burma Rangers who provide relief and medical treatment to people in combat zones. And they do it all in the name of Christ.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep as the world watches from the outside.
It's a big diplomatic tug of war here in the Middle East.
Go inside the story with Jerusalem Dateline.
Israeli archaeologists are talking about a discovery that could change the thinking about the Temple Mount.
Join CBN Jerusalem Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell and get the biblical perspective on the events shaping the world.
What starts in Israel then ends up going to other places.
Watch Jerusalem Dateline Friday night at 9:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life Live it fully. CBN.com.
Thanks for staying with us. When danger and difficulties come, do you tackle them head on or do you run away? Missionary and former U.S. Army Ranger David Eubank runs directly into the center of danger. He's the founder of the group Free Burma Rangers. FBR provides relief and medical treatment to people in combat zones, all in the name of Christ. On this week's episode of The Global Lane on the CBN News Channel, Eubank gives us a sneak peek at a new documentary film about the group out in theaters next week.
For those who aren't familiar with the Free Burma Rangers, how did you get started 20 years ago and why?
I was in the military and I got out and had just started Fuller Seminary, had just met my wife-to-be who refused to date me. And in the middle of all that, a tribe from Burma called the Wa tribe contacted my parents, who are missionaries in Thailand next door, and said, please send someone to help us. And when they came to my parents' house from Burma, which is, Burma's 70 years of civil war right now, and came and said, they saw a picture of me with a green beret because after I was in Rangers, I was in Special Forces. And they said, that man's a warrior. We need Jesus, and we are a warrior people. Send him. So we started the Free Burma Rangers by name in 1997, about 22 years ago, but it's actually been going since about 26 years, since 1993. And then the last 5 years, we've been involved also in Iraq, Kurdistan, and Syria.
And David, it's not just providing medical treatment to the wounded and injured and material relief. Tell us about the importance of sharing your faith with those you help.
Well, the most important thing I want to be and do is an ambassador for Jesus. And I share with everyone I can meet, like just today, with people who fled Idlib in Syria. Ask Jesus to help you. He's real. He's supernaturally real. He'll help you. Call on his name. And we gave them Arabic Bibles, and I prayed with them. I think my faith is weak, so I don't want to share faith because it is weak. But I can share my conviction and my encouragement to say, ask Jesus to help you. He's going to do it. And he's made the possible impossible. In my own life, I'm not a very creative person, but following him, he's helped me do new things.
David, the movie is out in select theaters as a Fathom event February 24th and 25th. Tell us about the film. Why was it done? What will people see?
Well, at about our 20-year point of the Free Burma Rangers, by then we had teams in Burma, and we hadn't gone to Sudan yet or Iraq yet. We've been in Burma. I just had this growing feeling. I wanted to thank God. I wanted to thank people who helped us and show them what would have been happening. It just welled up inside me. It reminded me of the 10 blind people that were healed by Jesus, and one came back and said, thank you. It just came up. I thought, this is the time to share the story. And I remembered I was talking to a filmmaker friend of mine, Chris St. Clair, in Burma, in the jungle. He was there doing another project with us. And I said, I'm going to make a film. It'll be horrible if I make it, but I will have done my part. And Chris St. Clair, who made this current movie, said, I'll do it. Pro bono. Free. Okay. And we prayed. And we wanted to tell the story, what has God done through us and in spite of us? Who are the beautiful people all over the world, from every culture and tribe and race and religion that God made? They're awesome. Get to know them. We want to show the miracles God has done, again, through weak, imperfect, simple people like us and our friends. And there's no other kind that I know of. There's a lot better people than us, but even the best people are not perfect. But God uses us anyway. You don't have to give up. And I want people to see the Karen people of Burma, the other people of Burma, as we see them. It's lovely, wonderful people deserving to be free. We should stand with them. I want them to see Iraqis, as I learned, are wonderful people. They're not our enemies. And to see how God brings us together. My mom says, and she's been a missionary most of her life. She's 87, been in the field 60 years. My dad's 90. He's still in the field. I think you know them, Hal and Joan Eubank. My mom said, Dave, God has friends all over the world, and he likes them to meet each other. So I hope this movie does that as well.
Okay, it'll bring us together. The Free Burma Rangers documentary is out in select theaters February 24th and 25th. David, I guess people can check online for a showing close to them. Is that correct?
Yes, you can look at www.freeburmarangers.org or free FBR movie. You probably think I'm pretty illiterate, and I mostly am. I went to Texas A&M. But we're writing a book called The Free Burma Rangers in the Battle of Mosul. That's the subtitle. The main title is Do This for Love. And that'll come out later this summer as well. I'll tell you more about that later when we actually finish it. But it will be out this summer after the movie. And both of them telling slightly different stories about what we've seen and what has God done.
Okay, coming to us from Syria, David Eubank of the Free Burma Rangers. Thanks, Dave, for your time.
And you can see more about the issues, the important issues in the news on the global lane. It's tonight at 9:30 Eastern on the CBN News Channel. Coming up, 400 years ago, the Pilgrims came to this continent, landing in Plymouth, Massachusetts. And this weekend, Plymouth will hold special celebrations remembering the arrival of those Pilgrims. We're going to have that story up next. Stay with us.
I am Region's first ROTC graduate student.
Meet the pastors who are preaching the gospel in a fresh, fearless way. I'm Roberto Torres-Cedillo. Join me each week for Next Gen Voices. And watch God transform a generation.
How'd you like to get a redo on your health, on your body, on your arteries, so you could have the energy you had 20 years ago? The great news is you can. I'm Dr. Mike Roizen, chair of the Wellness Institute at the Cleveland Clinic. I've written 4 New York Times bestsellers. But even better than having to read all that, you can listen to this DVD and watch it. Protect your heart? Yes, you can. Here's how.
Go to CBN.com or call 1-800-700-7000 for your free copy of Protect Your Heart. Let the medical experts show you their new discoveries on how to avoid heart disease and even reverse it. Easy steps to uncover the hidden dangers in your medicine cabinet, reduce stress, and get a complete do-over for your health. Call 1-800-700-7000. That's 1-800-700-7000. Or go to CBN.com to claim your free copy of Protect Your Heart.
I am Region's first ROTC graduate student.
Welcome back. America marks the birthday of George Washington this weekend. Washington, known as the father of our country, and other founding fathers based their shaping of the nation on a foundation laid by the first fathers. That group, known as Pilgrims, arrived here 400 years ago this year, and the place where they landed, Plymouth, Massachusetts, is going to hold special celebrations. Paul Strand interviewed one of the main organizers of the festivities, who is himself a Pilgrim reenactor.
We're talking to Paul Jaley today of the Plymouth Rock Foundation and a Pilgrim reenactor in Plymouth. And I understand we're on the 400th anniversary of the Pilgrims landing in Plymouth.
That's right, and big year.
Yeah, what are you guys going to be doing up in Plymouth?
Well, there's a string of town events that are taking place beginning in April. But we are doing an event June 28 to 30, emphasizing the faith of the Pilgrims, what truly brought them here to the New World. The inspiration they had from the scriptures and the believers. And most people are unaware of the fact that it was a church plant that founded New England in 1620. And so we're going to be emphasizing that, reenacting a Pilgrim church service, historic tours, seminars, workshops, dramatic musical, and actually reenacting the landing in front of Plymouth Rock on Tuesday, June 30.
All right. Now, I understand that a lot of people think the Pilgrims were these old, stodgy folks just following a bunch of commandments and rules, and, you know, life was very strict. But what did they think about the God of liberty and this idea of freedom as they were coming to America?
Well, the first freedom that they really began to be cognizant of was internal liberty, liberty of conscience, freedom from sin. That's why they said that God began to reform their lives by His grace. And this was the most important thing that the Pilgrims began with, because they were a remnant as part of the great revival known as the Reformation. So here they were at the peak of that revival, and they were very conscious of this. They actually formed a covenant in their church to protect that liberty from within. As they continued to grow and be taught by their pastor, John Robinson, they began to understand that the liberty from within also comes without. And that's where they began to recognize, gee, there's no religious freedom here in England, and that's why they ended up in Holland, in order to have more protection of religious liberty. So not only did you have internal spiritual liberty, but external religious liberty, and eventually, as Robinson wrote them that famous letter, he said to them, you're going to become a civil body politic. So now they recognize, gee, civil liberty, blown off course, not in their original area where their patent and charter would be. They wrote that Mayflower Compact. And it was unique in several ways because it was the beginning of self-government here in America. Bottom-up liberty. The franchise of Plymouth always had the idea you did not have to be a church member in order to vote. So here was a great liberty and the original jurisdictional separation of church and state.
Do we, with our U.S. Constitution, do we see any sort of shadow of what the Pilgrims did in Plymouth? Do we see in the way that they formed their first government together?
Sure, because you look at the Mayflower Compact as like a charter, just like the Declaration of Independence is a charter. When you read the Mayflower Compact, it says, in the name of God, amen. We whose names are underwritten, the subjects of the king. So it's God to the people and then to the king. That power flow would be the same as the Declaration of Independence. Now, of course, the Pilgrims didn't know this at the time, and it's like a seed that would grow over time. But there's no question there's a link between some of the things the Pilgrims began to do, whether it's economic liberty, civil liberty, religious liberty, self-rule, thanksgiving, the idea of giving thanks to God even in the midst of suffering. You think of all that they went through as a church and a small group of believers, only half of them from the church on the Mayflower, others that were coming for other reasons. You know, so many lessons Christians can learn and Americans can learn from this story. It's a shame the Pilgrims often are just a footnote in history books. And so we want to be able to portray it fully from the real faith that brought them here and the faith that inspired them to do it.
Amen. Well, Paul, I hope a lot of people show up for the 400th anniversary up there in Plymouth.
Yeah, and then go to our website, www.plymrock.org, and they can find all the information, the schedule, and everything that they need to do to register and see you up in historic Plymouth.
Amen. Thank you very much, Paul Jaley from the Plymouth Rock Foundation. Back to you.
Like a fun event there. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of CBN News Watch. Remember, you can find more of our news programs on the CBN News Channel anytime or online with cbnnews.com. Also, tell us what you think about the stories you've seen by emailing newswatch@cbn.com. Or you can talk to us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hope you'll join us next time. Have a great day.